The Syncretion of Polarization and Extremes. Part 38. Italy. The Unbearable Weight of Being a Woman. Transposing Emblem by Sara Deiana. It is a major problem. Sadly, one spread across our whole planet. The victims are all different. They may be black, white, atheist, religious, well-educated, monogamous, sterile, libertine, married, and yet they all share the same fate. They were born a woman. The statistics on violence committed against women in any given part of the world are simply shocking, disgusting, not acceptable nor tolerable, and despite that, in my opinion, not given enough consideration. I will talk about the country I grew up in, whose people's mentality is the one I believe I know the best, l'Italia. I will try to explain what I mean when saying that I am talking about a huge problem that is not given enough consideration. There are many distinct forms of violence and abuse. Unfortunately, in Italy, a woman is killed every 2 days, and last year, statistical data showed that, on average, 11 women were raped daily. But we don't hear much about it because everyone is so busy fighting over other major issues like immigration, religion, politics, essentially just fighting against each other. In fact, we only make a fuss about it if the culprit is an immigrant and the victims are Italians, but that's another matter that we have to leave aside for now. We are faced with a problem that is deeply rooted in today's society and sadly inextricably entwined with our glorious culture and history. Yes, our country suffers from a well-known disease called machismo or maschilismo. The disease is alive and can be found in many families, work environments, and relationships of every kind. Il maschilismo is not limited to discrimination, it actually kills. It is not mere exaggeration, but a certainty that has been more than proven by now. It is the culture that preaches and promotes the superiority of the male, his right to own everything he wants, including women. And it is an issue that should be treated with the seriousness and relevance it deserves. Because in a more or less accentuated way, with more or less serious consequences, certainly lethal once every 2 days, it affects impact alpha on the Italian population. It is a problem that must be tackled by society as a whole, in a compact way. Institutions, press, television, school, men and women, girls and boys. And here comes the concept of polarizzazione. What really strikes me and leaves me speechless, thinking to myself how and why. Polarization happens when people become divided into contrasting groups. Someone has to explain to me how a human being can find any convincing thought, how anybody has the courage to even think, let alone utter words which will defend and justify the mostro, which will be on the side of the attacker. If any of you are brave enough, and if you can keep your sanity, to scroll and read through the opinion of our fellow humans in online newspapers, blogs, etc., you will notice that what prevails when the subject is rape are mean words like, oh, she had it coming, she was looking for it, she was not dressed in an appropriate way, she drank too much, she was alone, she shouldn't have been there, she tempted him. And when we read some comments about a woman being killed by her partner or husband, we have the privilege of reading some fine thinker saying, he was too jealous. Oh, but he loved her. He was a good man. He probably didn't mean to. We might think that this is all right, although it is not. Still within the limits of the standard macho minds, because after all, they are just some idiotic comments by random people. If such opinions are sometimes reported by the major newspapers of the country, you realize that we have a problem, a big problem. In fact, when a newspaper reports about one of the many feminicides happening throughout the country, they often refer to it as a crime of passion. What passion are we talking about? Again, between the lines, some part of the population, an important one in this case, the newspapers, radio or television broadcasting news, are trying to convince us that the man did it in the name of love. So in Italy, and I'm afraid not just in Italy, we live in a society that tends to be maschilista, so rape becomes, rather than an act that is always and in any case to be condemned, the subject of debate depending on the case. This debate can have many different points of view, and often the victim will be accused of something. It is as if we have gone back to the 16th or 17th century when women were accused of witchcraft. This is the society we have to live in, which in some ways seems to be going backwards, a society in which the victims will feel culpable because they were wearing the wrong clothes that night, because they shouldn't have had that one more drink. But also because we don't always have the courage or the strength to denounce the violence, and hearing words that make us the object being blamed doesn't help the healing. The saddest thing is to see women also behave in this way and take the side of the rapists along the lines of the common refrain, "She asked for it. Yes, but being alone at night. I wonder how she was dressed." Changing this way of thinking as a woman is very important. It can be the first step toward fighting this violence, becoming a society that has respect for all women and that detaches itself from this male dominant way of thinking.